On this episode of ResiWeek, Macintosh has started selling some of their audio products online. Macintosh, the audio manufacturer, not the computer. Clair Controls has become a standard for one of the home builders in Arizona. And what's going on with Sharp Displays as they have 3 suitors looking to take them over. All that and more, next on ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is ResiWeek, Episode 4, recorded Monday, February 22nd, 2016. The Future of Sharp. ResiWeek is brought to you by our fine group of underwriters, companies like Draper. This is ResiWeek, the weekly look at residential segment of the AV industry. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us this week is Mr. Ted Green from Strategy. How are you, sir?
Doing good. Always good to be with you, Tim.
All right. Thank you so much. Also with us, a first-timer, so be nice to her. Her name is Delia Hansen. She is from Clair Controls. How are you, ma'am?
Doing well, thank you.
She has, if you're watching the video, she has 2 lovely guitars behind her, so those are very cool. And last but not least, a gentleman, the last time I saw him, he was in Amsterdam on the show floor of ISE. Head everything at CEDIA. How are you, Mr. Vin Bruno?
All good. Glad to be here. Thanks, Tim.
Have you recovered yet?
You know, I actually got hit with the flu.
Oh.
And I'm probably at about 90% from recovering from it.
Well, thank you for joining us anyway. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So let's do this. A couple things here we've got going on. First and foremost, this is actually a story from Ted's publication Strategy. Strata hyphen. Is it a hyphen?
Hyphen
G.com. If you're watching the
GEE.
GEE. Yeah. Sorry. GEE.com. Macintosh. And this is not a computer story. This is the big. Long time specialty audio, right? Macintosh Labs is what they were known as, but Macintosh in general is what people used to know them as. They are opening themselves up to internet sales. Now, here's the significant part for me. And Ted, we're going to start with you since you're the one that wrote the story. Quote unquote, last week, dealers were contacted by various Macintosh representatives and informed that the company has decided to authorize sales of a selection of Macintosh models through a limited list of internet retailers. So, Mr. Green, what does this do to a brand that has been built upon this elusiveness and this high end?
Yeah, it's a huge story. I mean, I broke 3 big stories last week, shameless plug. But of all of the 3 that I broke, this is probably the one that, certainly my stats show, this is the one that had the biggest impact. And the reason it had such a big impact is, number one, the specialty AV business has been going through just wrenching transformations over the last 5 or 10 years. But the purest of the pure in terms of specially dedicated brands was Macintosh. So this is sort of the last straw for a lot of people. There was a lot of angst from the dealer base. Quite frankly, Macintosh did a really kind of poor job of letting people know what was going on. I tried to get comments from Macintosh. I tried really hard to get comments from Macintosh, and because there is 2 sides to this story. Certainly, there is the pain and agony being felt by many of their specialty AV dealers that feel abandoned now. Because some of the online partners that they chose aren't going to have a big impact, but at least one they chose is going to have a big impact, and that's Amazon.com. Yeah. But the other side of the story is, because I used to be a specialty AV manufacturer, and the fact remains that contemporary styles of shoppers researching and selecting and even buying products have changed dramatically over the last 10 years. Many of us shop online and many of us buy online. And there's a direct kind of conflict with one of the basic tenets of specialty AV, which was the shopping experience was part of the experience of buying specialty AV. So they always had very attractively designed showrooms. They had these showrooms tuned for the best quality of sound. They would have a rotating selection of products, and part of the experience is what's necessary really to understand and appreciate and select the right AV product. It doesn't translate well to online sales, and the industry has experimented, and many brands have experimented. And I've covered this same exact experiment. Another specialty brand, Teal Audio, a high-end loudspeaker manufacturer, essentially did the same kind of an experiment, and it was a devastating failure for them. They ended up having to retreat. But it's a challenge for the manufacturers because there are fewer and fewer dedicated specialty AV dealers in the marketplace, and they have products to sell, and they need to find a way to sell their products that is in accordance with the way people want to shop and buy products. So this is one of those stories that, from my perspective, was kind of, I can see both sides of this story. It's a tough situation, but I did feel I used to be a AV specialty dealer, so I really felt the dealer's pain as well. It was, it was quite emotional. Some of those dealers. I mean, some of them was just raw, unfettered anger. I couldn't print what they were saying. And some was just sadness and just like it's the end of an era. So it was a very interesting story. Now, by the way, I'm probably going to do an update on that story this week because about 3 hours after my article was posted, even though I could never get them to comment to me, Macintosh actually did put out a statement that went to all their dealers, because they'd only been calling a handful of their dealers, that went to all their dealers, that gave some of the background I just gave to you and sort of explaining why they needed to take this step. And as painful as it was for dealers, Macintosh did take care to try to protect their business. They only picked a small subset. It's only 12 SKUs. They have many, many more than that. They have MAP agreements in place. Most of the dealers they selected for online were online web properties that focus on high-end, especially AV products. So they did a lot of things right to try to minimize the impact of this. But, it's a tough situation.
Well, and Delia, I'm going to bring you in on this, not specifically about Macintosh, but talking about dealers. From either Claire controls or looking at this story from afar, how do you do that? How do you take care of the dealers? Because Ted and Macintosh is right. The consumer in general has changed the way they typically like to shop, right? And this is actually one of the conversations that I had more than once on the show floor of ISE 2 weeks ago, was figuring out how to do that, right? How to manage expectations and manage where the clientele are going to at least browse and shop, versus in keeping that in mind, as well as trying to make sure that your dealers are still taken care of.
That's going to be a really tough thing to balance in the near future, because you've got an audience that doesn't really believe a product exists anymore unless you can go find it on the internet. Yeah. It doesn't exist. It either isn't good enough or isn't what they're looking for, and they'll keep looking until they find something that fits within their framework of what they expect. And I think because I used to sell high-end audio as well, a long time ago, the Martin Logan speakers and big giant Cal amplifiers and the works, and it was an experience thing, and the person would fall in love in front of you and then drop a lot of money and then experience that in their own home. And to be able to just look at the web, you don't get any of that. So it's a completely different experience. But I think for Macintosh, it has to be something that they needed to do to get a little bit more of a presence. Because as Mr. Green was saying, I mean, there are fewer and fewer high-end audio shops out there. Where are you going to go to find this product? You've got to be able to put it out there and be able to show people that it's available. With us, with Claire, same thing. I mean, we're going into the mainstream market. Mainstream people expect to be able to buy on the internet. And the only way we've been able to figure out how to do that is to actually give some of the profit that the dealer would have made selling the product themselves. We'll be able to associate the project with the dealer who bought it. So if a homeowner goes online, and once we do finally get to the point where we can sell directly to the homeowner, we'll actually be able to give the profit back to the dealer. So it doesn't really matter if they buy it from us or from them.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's a huge deal.
No.
Hey, Tim, if I can just jump in real quick. Tim, on AV Week last week, you did one of my stories. I had written a story about changing trends
Yes.
in B2B sales, where 1 million more B2B sales rep and distributor salespeople positions are going to be eliminated. It's actually a related story to this story. And what brought me to that story was reporting I did for an article I did for Residential Systems on the rise of the brand portal. So many manufacturers, I don't know, maybe Claire Control is one of them, but so many manufacturers have rolled out brand portals to facilitate integrators being able to directly purchase the products quickly and conveniently right on their website. And when I first approached that story, I thought the story was going to be about manufacturers trying to shift business away from their reps because it's more convenient and more efficient for them. But when I actually was reporting that story, I spoke to probably about a dozen integrators, and the integrators told me that for most of their business, for most of their daily in and out business, they don't need to speak to a rep. And if they're constructing a system and they have, say, 10 or 12 brands that they need to buy products from, they don't want to call 10 or 12 reps. They don't want to set up appointments or try to order over the phone. They'd rather just flip amongst the portals and enter their orders. Your guests on AV Week kind of missed one of the points of that. They sort of thought that I was suggesting that the rep sales force is going away. Didn't mean that at all. What the article meant to suggest was that there's a reprioritization going on, where the daily, normal, run and gun kind of business, it's easier and more convenient, and frankly, the dealers prefer to buy this way by going onto your portal. But they still need reps to speak to either learn about new items or new opportunities. So there's still a role for the rep. It's just shifting a little bit. And the role of the rep is shifting a little bit too. They have to be a little more professional. They have to be more consultative. And not just, I'm going to show up this month because it's time for me to collect your order. They have to add value.
But it was more along the lines of shifting where the contact point at the time of purchase is. Is that what you're saying?
It was recognizing that not every time an integrator needs to buy, he needs the same process. If it's we call it the custom installation industry, but the fact is many integrators devise a set of products that work well for them, and they're just ordering that over and over and over again. They don't need to talk to a rep every time. I had them tell me, I hate talking to the rep because he comes over and he wants to talk about the game last night, or he wants to show me pictures of his kids, and I don't have time for this. I'm too busy. Right. And so they want to just go on a portal and they want order. But if they have a question or a problem or an issue or a dispute, or they want to negotiate a price, or they want to look at a new series of products, then they need a rep, and they need a very informed rep. They need a rep that really knows the in and out of the line and that can answer those questions.
And it's all lines, not just the lines that they carry.
Go ahead, Delia.
Right. It's just one point real quick. It's all about restructuring your approach to sales, not a one size fits all, but to develop essentially a 3-stage sales process to meet the integrator's need for that particular interaction, which most of the time, maybe 60, 70, maybe even 80% of the time, the portal is the best way for him. It's fast, it's efficient, it's easy. He knows what he wants. He just needs more. That's what that story was about.
Okay, Very good. All right, Vin, from taking it back to Macintosh for a second, and even about dealers in general, from an industry standpoint, how are manufacturers, suppliers, rep firms taking care of the dealers, and how should they?
Right. Well, I mean, from my point of view, I would like to see Macintosh somewhat protect those of their dealers that have built out showrooms. Ted, do you have any, are there any answers that Macintosh provided on that? Because these guys have invested millions of dollars in some cases in their showrooms.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point, Vin. And the fact is that there may be a layer of information I've not been able to develop yet at Macintosh. I wouldn't be surprised if they made some form of accommodation, because it was clear to me that they didn't just say, okay, we're blowing open the doors on online sales. They thought about this. They attempted to develop a process or a strategy that would minimize the impact on their dealers. But you're absolutely right. Some of these dealers have invested a lot of money into building a beautiful showroom, and many of them have significant quantities of Macintosh products on display.
Right.
All right.
Well,
Go ahead.
We hope that Macintosh is going to use this as a farming type thing, seed the market with it. It should be able to get them email addresses, IP addresses, contacts that they can then shift to the brick and mortar stores in those locations. I mean, with how well you can track technology and who's popping in where, looking at what, purchasing products, they should be able to use this as a big additional sales tool. I mean, if they can distribute it to the people who are locally around the people purchasing the products online, you might be able to upsell to tube amplifiers and get them in to actually listen to stuff.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And in fact, they have a dealer locator on their website. And I think it's quite probable that you're going to attract people on Amazon or one of these other websites, and the model that they're showing is not exactly what they want, but they're interested in Macintosh. So they're going to go to their local dealer to find out more about it.
Or they're going to go to Macintosh, or they're going to go to Macintosh's website and find the exact one they're looking for, and hopefully do the dealer search.
And I thought it was very interesting that everything was temporarily out of stock.
Yeah, that was interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah. So now that's a really great way to get your name out there without actually selling product.
That's the Nintendo ploy. Only make 100, and then the demand will far exceed supply. All right, let's do this. And I typically do not do press releases. It's personal preference, professional preference, I guess. But this one I'm going to. Not just because it's Delia, because she's on here, but it was a pretty cool story. This is from Claire Controls. Fulton Homes, Arizona's largest home builder, has selected Claire Controls as the smart home standard for 500 homes. That's a quote from one of the guys from Fulton. The industry has made smart home technology confusing. I'm going to ask Vin about that. And Ted, some of our customers aren't up on the latest technology, so we don't want to alienate or talk over their heads, said Dennis Webb, Fulton Home Vice President of Operations. Claire makes their options simpler by providing practical, affordable packages that offer home buyers smart home technology that is easy to use and understand. All right, Delia, how on earth do you, as a manufacturer, manage a deal that gets you into 500 homes?
You have to be hands-on, that's for sure.
Okay.
So the first thing that we did was there happens to be a dealer, a low-voltage integrator that's already working with Fulton Homes. It's iWired. So we sat down with both iWired and Fulton Homes. And what we did is we asked them, what's the average price? What's your average upsell? What's your target? Because I don't know if you guys know this, but there's actually a target upsell rating for a new home purchase. And you don't go over that because they're not going to get approved for that mortgage amount to be increased over X percentage. And you don't want people defaulting on loans. So you have to stay within a certain parameter. And that includes your countertops, your kitchens, your bath, your everything accessories, including home automation. That tends to be no more than 10 or 11% of the total value of the home. So whatever it is you're quoting, all of your packages need to fit in there along with everything else that they're going to sell. And you know that they're going to get upgraded flooring, and you know that they're going to get countertops, and you know they're going to get a bunch of other stuff. So you're looking at taking up no more than, say, $5,000-$6,000 with all of your packages combined. And when you sit down with the builder and the low voltage guy, and you look at each other and you say, do you understand that everything you're building cannot cost more than $6,000? And you all nod your head, and then you start building packages that fit within that. And then you get with Fulton and you say, all right, what are the sizes, the bite-sized chunks of products that people like and find the most compelling? And they'll tell you it's safety and security, it's access, it's being able to monitor their home while they're not there. And so you build 2 or 3 packages that specifically address that, and you start there. And then you say, what's the next thing that's most important to them? And they'll tell you, I don't know, lighting control and being able to shut lights off at the end of the day, and, music. So you build another package that fits in with those 2 entire pieces, and you come up with price points that make it correct. And what you end up doing is reverse engineering. Instead of building a package that does all of these wonderful things and coming up with a price at the end, you're building a package that hits a price point you need to hit in order to hit the right buzzwords with the customer and the right price point to fit within what their expectations are. And so your design build, it's an architectural term instead of just building from a dream. Once you get that all into place, that's part number one. Then you have to get them to decide what their margins are going to be, how much money they both want to make, and they do all of that big battle and war and go back and forth to fight over 1 or 2 points of margin. Once you have that all figured out, then you have to figure out a way to sell it within their design centers. So we work with the design center staff to train them on the product. And this was why our kiosk was so important that we displayed at IBS this year. It's a plug and play piece. It's all one unit. It delivers complete. You literally just plug it into the wall and put it on your internet connection, and you're able to show all 5 of the packages. And we happen to have videos already built that say, never enter a dark home again, be able to see who's at your front door, motion activated cameras, record who's there, all these lifestyle benefits, let your kids in if they forget their keys. And the videos are all hosted on YouTube, so we can update them whenever we want to and make sure that they stay up to date. And the consumer can actually see them just by tapping on the iPad. So there's very little training involved with the salesperson. They can literally walk up to the demo, press one button, and it plays the video, and then all of the automation happens, like the door lock unlocks and the security system arms and then disarms, and the lights go on and off. And so the customer can see all of these things happening without having to spend hours and hours researching, learning, trying to figure out what it is that they want to buy. You just say, oh, yes, those 3 things are important to me. Oh, it's $985. That seems like a great deal. Yes, I'll take package number 2.
Wow. Holy cow. All right. Okay.
It's a big thing.
It's a big thing, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of relationships. It's a lot of back and forth.
Months, literally.
I'm certain, yeah. Then let's start with you, and then we'll get to Ted. The first question is, this is really cool. Secondly, though, to the man from Fulton's point, saying that we've kind of made this segment a little bit confusing. How do we not? I mean, is it stuff like this, packages like this, relationships like this, where we can say, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, this is package A, B, and C? How do we make it not? How do we make it a little simpler?
Well, first of all, as soon as I read the press release, I sent Delia a way to go email. I was in my room in Amsterdam saying, hey, let's go pop a champagne and celebrate. So congratulations, Delia. But, what we're finding is that there's such a wide gap between, what a homeowner knows and what a custom installer knows. And so Delia, I know, is the master, having worked with Delia in the past, that she's the master of simplifying the very complex. But as an industry, we haven't done a very good job of simplifying the technology that we offer. So there's that problem that exists today. So kudos on the packages, Delia. But let me ask you this: are the guys at Fulton as astute at upgrading to home technology as they are flooring?
Not even.
What's that?
Not even close. They are so much better at floors and cabinets and countertops. They understand it. I mean, it's really easy to understand. You're looking at something and asking, what do you think is going to look better in your home? And people already understand it. I mean, it's simple.
Right.
Technology is complicated. So what we did is we tried to take all the technology out of it. And now it was, these are 5 things that this small package does specifically related to one idea. So it makes it into bite-sized chunks. Instead of trying to describe home automation as making your lights and your climate and your door lock and all of these things, it becomes a very big idea very quickly. If you take it to small bite-sized chunks, this is how it's going to make you feel more secure at home. It's going to allow you to have personalized codes to get into your home. It allows you to see who's at the front door before, while you're not there. And it allows you to know that your garage door is always closed even when you're not home. These are 3 things that people experience on a daily basis and know that these are important to them. And then that is you're done with that idea. And once they nod their head and they say, I understand that idea, you can move on to another idea. When you try to explain the whole world of a home and every system that's on it and how they can all work together, that's too many ideas as an engineer.
So in this particular case, does the homeowner have an option of zero home automation, or do they get at least some home automation with the purchase of a Fulton home?
Yeah, that was the key. So Fulton went base standard with the smart home thermostats, all of them in the whole house. So you get the app, you get the widgets, you get the ability to make your away home vacation and all that stuff.
So that comes as a baseline, and then they can expand on that.
Well, I think
go ahead.
Huge, that part of it. That's huge because at least they're getting in with something.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Mr. Green, same kind of question to you. You've covered this industry for a long time. How do we make it simpler for folks? Stuff like this where you just baseline into a new home?
Okay, so a couple of comments. Number one, this deal is remarkable. However, if we went back to 2005, 2006, deals like this were happening all the time. That's when housing was growing like crazy. And there were a lot of these kinds of deals where integrators and or manufacturers through integrators worked with production home builders or other home builders to install systems. And what's remarkable is that for a few years now, as the housing bubble burst, a lot of these kinds of deals went away. So I view this as kind of a very important sign that that there's finally some growth back in the industry, and it's a one-off right now, but it's a good sign. It's a good signal that things are moving in that direction. As far as this is the more directly to your question, which is how do we make things simpler? It's one of the challenges of our industry. I think one of the reasons why this deal came together is that Claire Controls was probably one of the best options for exactly this kind of package. Claire Controls is known for being a very cost-effective solution, but also Claire Controls, and correct me if I'm wrong, Delia, is one of the companies that has paid particular attention to their user interface. So they have a friendly, easy user interface, which really facilitates exactly this kind of deal. And I actually think that Claire Controls is a little bit at the front edge of a new wave of awareness in the industry that that yes, we want to build in as much customization as possible. Yes, we want to build in as much flexibility as possible, but also we want to design a system that is usable. At the end of the day, somebody is using this, and it's not the integrator, it's the homeowner. So the more usable and the more easy, the intuitive, some of the things we've learned from Apple and some of the other manufacturers, to build intuitive products that you don't even have to read a manual, you just sense how to use it. The more we do these kinds of things, then I think we'll see a new era of growth in the industry. It's tough, I mean, basically our systems are built by engineers, and I have a lot of engineers who are friends, they're not really good at the people side of the equation. So there's a whole specialty for user interface designers who that's their specialty, how to accommodate the human being that's trying to access these features.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, first off, thank you for that compliment, because yes, that's what we were going for.
I figured.
Yeah, and I guess that would lead into, I know that we've got all these great programs and we've laid everything out so the marketing is there and it makes it easy to sell, but honestly the app being as easy and intuitive as it was step one. These guys, Fulton, this is not their first time with an AV company. I think we're their third or fourth that they've actually tried. And they basically were ready to give up. And so presenting them the user interface that we had and showing them how you can tap and hold and the little icons jiggle and you can move them around and make folders and delete things and add things just like you do your phone. The executives looked at that and said, I get this. I get this in 30 seconds. I get this. My customers will get this in 30 seconds. I'm willing to try this one more time.
Yeah.
It's, really one of the reasons why I spend a lot of time on Kickstarter and Indiegogo, because there's a whole new wave of kind of garage tinkerer that is playing at new ways, and there's a lot of innovation in easier user interface. So there's a lot of interest in that area, and I think that's really good for our industry.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, last story here, and I'll let you guys get out of here. And I'll be the first to say I'm not smart enough for this story. That's why Ted's here. So I'm just going to...
we're in trouble.
Ted and Vin and Delia and I are just going to sit back and let them yammer for a second. All right, so here's the deal with Sharp, right? Sharp has 2 or 3 proposals on the table. One is from the Japanese government, or a Japanese government-backed company called Innovation Network Corp. The other one is Foxconn. Foxconn is Hanhai Precision Industry Company, or Corporation rather, also known as Foxconn. Foxconn, you know them, you love them as the maker of your iPhone. So as of right now, and this story from JapaneseTimes.co was actually posted yesterday. The head of Foxconn actually flew over to Japan to try to help this deal out. The folks at Sharp are leaning more towards Foxconn. From my understanding, and Ted's going to correct me because I'm probably going to be wrong, this is almost this is not something you do in Japanese culture. When the government says we want to help you, even though it's less money, you still take it, and they're not. So, Ted, how significant, first of all, is this, I guess, disillusion of Sharp in general as an industry leader, and then how significant is this seemingly decision by the Sharp board to go with Foxconn?
Well, I mean, this is a stunning series of developments. Sharp was the virtual inventor of the flat panel TV, the virtual inventor of LCD technology, certainly the leader in that area for a couple of decades. Huge company, made some mistakes, got into trouble. Some of this was not there, some of this was industry-wide. All of the Japanese manufacturers are stumbling to some degree or another. And so they, a few years ago, they cut a deal with Hanhai Precision, Foxconn, Terry Gao, to share the costs of their largest. They had built this largest 4th generation factory in Japan. It's a thing of wonder, but unfortunately they built it and put a lot of money in building it just as the market began to turn down. So they partnered with Terry Gao, who needed access to display panels because Foxconn is the largest manufacturer of Apple products. And Apple products use a lot of LCD panels. So he needed access to that. So he partnered with him. As part of that deal, Terry Gao was going to buy 10% or just under 10% of Sharp Corp, the whole company, not just the factory, but the whole company. During the negotiations for that, their share price dropped. Sharp's share price dropped dramatically. And he said, well, it's worth less now. I'm not going to pay what we were talking about. And it fell apart. And it was very acrimonious, some very personal mudslinging between him and Sharp management. And it completely fell apart. Then Sharp fell on hard times. Their bank got involved, gave them a huge bailout package, but put a lot of conditions on this and really wanted to drive some kind of a buyout. And there's now 3 different bidders. Japan Display, which is a large LCD manufacturer in Japan that is their biggest competitor. And then, as you mentioned, there's the Innovation Network Corp of Japan, which is a Japanese government-backed arrangement. And then there's Foxconn, are all bidding for to buy the company, to buy Sharp the company. And everybody thought that INC-J, Innovation Network Corporation of Japan, had it in the bag because this is a government-backed initiative. The government is saying in a kind of a nationalistic way that they don't want some of Sharp's proprietary technology. They have a display technology called I just forgot the name of it. It's a strange acronym. But they have a display technology and they have a manufacturing technology that the Japanese government is saying, we don't want this falling into foreign hands, meaning Terry Gao's hands, and put some pressure on them. And like I've often said, and I've certainly written about it, in Japan, the government's very tight with companies, and so it seemed like the fix was in. In fact, they were so confident that they offered half. InkJ offered half of what Foxconn was offering, and yet, despite the bad blood between Sharp management and Terry Gou, they're leaning that direction. Some of that is coming from the banks, who are also turning their back on the government and going, hey, this Foxconn is a better deal. It's more money. He's going to keep the company together. And yet everybody in Japan is completely shocked that Sharp management is turning their back on the government and favoring Terry Gou and Foxconn. And so, it's a big story. It's going to change the landscape of display manufacturers in this country.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're recording this on Monday, the 22nd. According to that story, Thursday or Friday of this week is when they're going to make some sort of decision. Vin, from your standpoint, and you have a unique one now as being the head of CEDIA. Sharp is a exhibitor, right? Not only at CEDIA but also at ISE, which we just got back from. CEDIA is half owner of that. What is this going to do, depending on how this all shakes out, right? Ted's right. The Innovation Corp is going to split up Sharp. If Foxconn gets a hold of it, they'll keep it together. But from an industry standpoint, what is this going to do to Sharp from our standpoint?
It can make it disappear.
Oh, yeah.
And we don't want to lose a brand. So, I'm for one in favor of keeping the technology moving forward, and Sharp is it's a nice name in our industry. They're well recognized at both our shows.
No, absolutely. All right, guys, that is going to wrap us up here today. Thank you all so much for joining us, and thank you for watching and listening. Miss Delia Hansen, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
How can people find you and or Claire Controls?
Well, we've got ClaireControls.com, and then I'm Delia_Hansen. That's my Twitter handle, so you can tweet me.
And she has a very very cool little cartoon character. I need to find out how she
actually looks just like this.
That's fairly accurate, actually.
Yeah.
The only bad part about Delia is that she's a Packers fan. So I say that as a well-ensconced Packers fan. So. Also, thank you so much, Mr. Ted Green.
You can follow me. I'm at Ted Green on Twitter. I'm Ted Green on Facebook. Or you can go to strategy.com, strata-GEE.com. That's my home on the web, and I'm all over the place.
Yeah, that's typically where I get most of my breaking news. I've sent him more than one message to stop breaking news because I can't fix it. Last but not least, Mr. Vin Bruno, thank you, sir. I appreciate your time.
You're very welcome. Happy to be here. Thank you.
And how can people find you and or CEDIA?
Oh, please come see us at cedia.org, and let me shamelessly plug our business exchange coming up in May, where our topic for executives are how to find and retain talent.
Oh, very good. And where is that?
It's in San Diego.
San Diego, very good. Beautiful San Diego.
Hard to trust somebody whose office is so clean.
No.
You know what?
Tim, I feel a real connection with you, Tim.
I was going to say, mine's getting there. It's not quite to your level. I don't have a Tasmanian devil like Ted does, so I used to have an animal somewhere. I can't find him. My name is Tim Albright. Don't follow me, but go by the website if you would, please. AVNation.tv, AVNation.tv. An awful lot of folks put an awful lot of hard work into it. I just tell them it looks pretty. You will find this program and a host of others. We've got our weekly pro and commercial show called AV Week, which is this, only it's more for professional commercial products. We've also got a bunch of monthlies, if I can talk this afternoon. Everything from education to marketing and social media. So check them out, AVNation.tv, AVNation.tv. That's all the time we have for ResiWeek.